No, we're human beings,
Yeah.
and we want to be the best version of ourselves. It's not about doing stuff overnight. It's about moving mountains with one drop of water at a time over time. So just do little tiny bits every day and don't overwhelm yourself. And break complex things down into simplicity. And if you take one little baby step at a time, you're going to look back 5 years from now and you're going to be at the top of the mountain.
What's up, guys and girls? My name's SnewJ. Welcome back to the channel. Today I got a very special video for you. Do you remember the gentleman we met in the Malibu video, the $100 million man? Well, today we're actually gonna link up and have a conversation with him. It turns out that he's actually worth $350 million. So this gentleman is super intelligent, has a lot of valuable information that we can all learn from, knows a lot of secrets of how to make money. It's literally a TED Talk, but a conversation. You see what I'm saying? Also, I wanna just mention real quick that I just recently partnered with Webull. If you guys want up to 12 free stocks, 12 free stocks, click my link in the description below. Free stocks equals free money. It's a no-brainer. Click that link below and open an account today with Webull and get your free money. Let's get the video started. For the people that are seeing you for the first time, who are you? Introduce yourself and what do you do exactly?
Well, my name is Joshua Masar, and I'm basically an innovator. I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm all about solving problems. I think that's the key in life. To make the biggest contributions to society, it's about identifying problems. And the industry that I kind of planted my flag was energy.
Yeah.
So energy is the biggest, deepest pocket industry there is in society, and affects all things and it affects all people in a very meaningful, deeper way. And so it's all about how do you take an industry that can't figure itself out and take leadership and ultimately be that person that defines innovation within that industry.
It's your company, right?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. It's Malia Ventures, which is my daughter's name.
Kind of briefly, just talk about what you do there. Yeah. And then we can expand on your mindset, and how you think, and how you got to that point.
What's so crazy about Malia Ventures, it's all about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So Maslow, it's all about psychology and what basic humans need to have a sustainable, fulfilling life, right? And to actualize your true self. So, and that's about food, water, shelter, energy. And so I'm like, well, I want to capture intellectual property. I want to do something that's so unique and innovative in the industry where everybody could actually have a better way of life. We're talking about developing markets, people that, if you look at the Millennium Development Goals of the United Nations, a lot of people are hungry, man. A lot of people need education. A lot of people need these amazing things. So I'm thinking, well, why not, make money in the industries that are going to have the biggest impact with those people in their lives.
100%.
So what I learned was it wasn't about starting companies, which was real crazy. I had an aha moment. It wasn't about starting companies and having employees and products and manufacturing stuff. It was about intellectual property. Because if I take stuff across a border into another country, then it's tariffed. And then that erodes your profit margin. So tariff is just a way for them to say, hey, you're going to have to pay us, the government, for delivering this product into our country. Well, everybody in those countries, they already have businesses, already have customers. If I have a better way of doing what they're already doing and they're more profitable, well, then they can actually pay me a royalty for using that knowledge. Because you can take knowledge anywhere in the world. It's light. It's a law of physics. So Malia Ventures was set up to actually be a company that actually owns innovation and owns rights to territories. To bring innovation into the oil and gas industry, to basically be more holistic about how we deliver low-cost energy that's sustainable, that doesn't impact the environment. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to start using because I have fields. I have huge fields. I develop oil and gas, just straight up. But I recycle the water. I recycle the gas. I bring in new technologies so that way it's not harmful to the environment. And then I basically have the licensing for the rights to then sell those rights to major service companies or oil and gas companies, and I get royalties for that intellectual property. So what happens is it becomes a bank of, if I'm a musician and I write songs, every time someone plays a song, they get a royalty, right? So you think, okay, well, how do I replicate? I write a book. Every time I sell a book, I'm getting a royalty from that book. So it's like, okay, well, if I can't come up with all these ideas and this innovation, well, why don't I go out and find people that are entrepreneurs that don't know how to sell those technologies? And it's not about selling technology, it's about selling solutions. So I find people that invented amazing solutions for this industry, and I know what problems I have in the energy industry, and so I go out and find the solutions, solve my own problem, I prove it, I test it, I demonstrate it, I show it to my bottom line, and then I just basically license that solution. I see. Worldwide. So the key is they say, oh, you always got to put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's about putting yourself in someone else's mind. You know, to me, it wasn't about, okay, you know, what have I done? What have I accomplished? How much shit did I have? what it's about basically elevating people and their awareness to what's possible.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like I can have a conversation with someone and totally, completely inspire them and change their lives by them understanding what's possible for themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And thinking creatively. Because we create the box. We don't live in the box.
Right.
And it's not about exchanging time for money. It's about exchanging value for money.
Yeah.
So and I'll give you an example. So if you say, okay, well, I'm a lawyer, I make $500 an hour. Well, how many hours do I have in a day?
Yeah.
So I'm limited, right?
Yeah, true.
But if I go to someone and say, hey, I could save you or make you $100 million a year with this technology. Is it worth it for you to pay me $10 million a year?
Sure.
If you're gonna have an extra $90 million in your pocket?
Absolutely.
But I set it up that way. Or you're gonna go to McKinsey and Company, pay $250,000 for a consultant to come in. They just got the $250, but you just brought $50 to $60, $70 million to their bottom line. Did they really negotiate their position right?
Yeah.
No, straight up. So what you do is you negotiate your position from the beginning. So let's say for all the people out there that don't have a company, all you have to do is find someone that has a need and a want, and determine what that value is.
Okay.
And then you write yourself into the deal, and then you introduce them, and then you get paid.
Yeah.
It's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Yeah,
because you're literally doing things without the lack of resources. You're saying, okay, here's a company that's complaining they have problems. Here's someone over here that they don't know about that basically says they have a solution.
Yeah.
You make sure the solution's proven, and then you quantify what is that solution going to do for that company. So when you reach out to the company that has a problem, say, oh, I have a solution for you. It's going to save you $10,000 a month. Are you willing to pay me $2,000 if that works?
Yeah. 100%.
And they'll be like, well, how should I listen to you? I'm like, no, you don't need to pay me anything. No, nothing up front. It's all based on performance. And by the way, can I get that in writing?
Yeah.
And then they put it in writing. They have nothing to lose. They only have anything to gain. Then you go back over to the guy that has the employees, the technology, and the service. You bring those guys together, then they service that problem, and then you just get paid. It's like, you're like, hey,
you're just the orchestrator.
No,
is what you're saying.
You're a financial architect. And so what I realized by having all these businesses is that you don't have to have all these businesses. You don't have to have all this inventory. You don't have to have all these people, because that's all liability. That's all moving parts. So what is innovation? Innovation is when something takes 4 steps to complete. Yeah. And you learn that it only takes 2. Yeah. And then you just completely control the market. So the reality is you can do it in any industry. That was my point. I didn't want people to be like, oh, I want to copy what Josh does because I want to make over 100 million like him and have hundreds of millions of dollars on the balance sheet. It wasn't about that. It was about actually finding the issues in every industry and then defining what those challenges and problems are, and then finding the people that have the solutions and bringing them together and writing yourself in the deal. And that's every industry, man. And a lot of people say, well, those big companies, why don't those big companies, why don't they innovate for themselves? They have all the money. Yeah. And the reason why, because they always tell you can never compete against the 800-pound gorilla, right? Well, if you look at there's something called the Dow Jones and Industrial Average. It's 30 of the biggest companies. It tracks 30 of the biggest companies. Yeah. Since the early 1900s, all the 800-pound gorillas, they say no one can compete against these guys, right? Well, guess what? Every one of those companies, they were being tracked in that index, which is basically just an index of their value. Yeah, right? Yeah. Every one of those companies got delisted. Except for GE was the last company that since last year, every one of them are gone. Wow. And now there's 30 new companies that are sitting there. But they're all 800-pound gorillas. What the hell happened to them? Yeah. And you want to know what happened to them? It was Samson and Goliath. It was these guys with dreams that were like 10, 15, 20 years ago, that these companies didn't exist. And you want to know something? I looked at the balance sheet because you follow the money. Yeah. I looked at the annual reports, and I'm like, how much money? Because Peter Drucker is the godfather of marketing and innovation. He has a lot of free books. You can go online. Peter Drucker is just awesome. And he says you have to innovate, you have to market, because if you market, you communicate that innovation. You're communicating your value and you're innovating. And that's how you pivot. And so all these companies that want to stay business as usual, literally, they put like 2 to 3% of their capital back into research and development, which is innovation. Being different, being creative, creating more value. And then all the companies that took the place of all the 800-pound gorillas were putting 15 to 25% back into research and development. So they innovated their way into the industry being nobodies. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like Salesforce and the Microsofts and the different. That's super interesting. No, it's just incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. And so what you realize is that the Harvard peer reviews, which is insane, I looked at the oil and gas industry. I'm like, oh, when someone invents a technology that's going to change the oil and gas industry, number one, people don't hear about it because a lot of the pollution that goes in the atmosphere you can capture, like CO2, you can capture it, create polymer, and create industrial diamonds with CO2. You can create diamonds with CO2 gas. Really? And the reason why is because it's a carbon. Diamonds are carbon. Okay. You know? So it's just an example, right? So the Harvard peer review shows you that when something's invented, it solves the problem.
Yeah.
It takes 15 years before it's adopted in the industry when you have bigger companies because all the corporate hierarchy. So if we're small, we're like mixed martial artists, you know? We can actually go in and we can pivot, we can make quick decisions. And if you don't have money, dude, I'm telling you right now, everybody's like, dude, I need to raise money. It's bullshit. You want to know why? And people, and I have a finance background.
Yeah.
And these people, I actually got my master's in finance without an undergraduate.
Oh, so you have your master's,
And I had no undergraduate degree.
What?
I challenged.
Wait, hold on. For real?
Yeah, dude. I went into Barnes and Noble every weekend, and then all my friends were partying when I was in my 20s, and I read every financial book I can get my hands on about Rothschilds and the Vanderbilts and the House of Morgans, and I was reading about all the people. Hallelujah! There we go. I was reading about all the people that shape society, these titans of industries, and I realized they were no different than anybody else.
Yeah.
And I learned the language of finance, and then I basically contacted the Institute of Business Finance, the nationally accredited finance school.
Yeah.
And I told them straight up, I go, I'll test out of every one of your courses. I go, I know all this stuff. And they're like, well, you need a 4-year undergraduate degree. I go, no. I go, I'll challenge you. I go, test me. And so I got all these referrals, like the mayor of Malibu and all these people to recommend me. And then so they put me to the test. I went and tested in their program.
Yeah.
It was a 2-year master's degree, and I got my master's in 4 months.
What in the world?
You're the smartest guy in the world. I'm like, no, I'm not. I go, for 10 years, I was studying all these finance books, right?
Yeah.
And then it just turned out that I was preparing this whole time, and then when I went to your program, I finished in 4 months. Normally, it's 2 years for people.
That is insane.
I turned everything upside down.
This is the first time I think in history that's ever happened, huh? Someone getting
it's never happened at that university. And not only that,
I never heard about this before.
I was getting jobs, dude. I could tell you street smart ways to get, dude, because I was street smart, right? And
Yeah,
smart.
yeah.
I can tell you to get jobs. I was literally if I would find out where people would go, where their watering holes were. Like, I'll give you an example. So when I came back from doing the t-shirt stuff, I started working jewelry.
Okay.
And I started working at Ellsberg Diamonds, and I ended up becoming a manager in 6 months without a degree. And we were the #3 top selling store in the entire country.
Really?
And within 6 months. And it was just coming off the t-shirts. I had so much confidence, and I had so much ability, I had so much momentum. And then someone purged me, and I ended up working in Beverly Hills at a high-end jewelry store I won't mention.
How old are you at this time now?
Oh no, I was like 25. But
okay, so you're still, okay.
I was still young, but I was selling diamonds to like, David Foster, Beyonce, like all the biggest celebrities. Like $250,000 worth of diamonds every other week. I was selling in the jewelry industry, and then but I wanted to be in finance. That was like my goal, because my mom's like, oh, if you control the money, then you can control the deal, right?
Yeah.
And so what I did was I found out where all the brokers, the stockbrokers from one of the largest private Swiss banks in the world, every Monday they'd go down to this coffee shop, and there'd be a group of them. And I was like, I'm just some kid that basically didn't have any degree. I didn't even have a master's at the time, but I had all this knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'd overhear their conversations about taking companies public and doing all this stuff. And I knew this information because I was reading in books, and so because I was learning language. And then I started conversations with these guys. And then they were like, holy Jesus, they're like, dude, you're like as smart as we are.
Yeah.
They're like, you need to be in this industry. I go, but you guys will never hire me. And they just started laughing, and they're like, well, why? I go, because they're hiring people out of Harvard and Stanford.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I go, because I don't have any education. They're like, dude, look what's coming out of your mouth. They're like, you should apply for it. And I'm like, I can't apply. You guys would never. It was total education discrimination.
Yeah.
And they're like, they started laughing. They're like, we're all the biggest producers. We'll put you on your, when you give us the application, fill it out. We'll put you down as we're the references.
What?
It took me 6 months of just having coffee with them.
That is
having friends. And
wow, that's unbelievable.
And so what I realized, if you find out where the people you want to work at, hang out at, like foundationally through service, charity, or where they just have fun, or there's an affinity with working out, exercise, go in those places, build those relationships, and then be like, oh, by the way, I'd love to probably work with you. Would you give me a referral? And then you have 5 referrals that happen to work with that company, and they give you a job.
It gets you in, yeah.
Instead of putting your resume in and then having piles of resumes, you go right to the top because there's relationship. I always thought, oh, you had to give them a resume. There's a formal way of doing things, but it was always relationship driven. Before it was just, okay, let's go through the pile and go through HR.
Yeah,
and so it was the street smart way.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Like, you got to come in, man. So I went in there. Dude, they hired me right on the spot.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was the only financial advisor in my 20s to basically get hired out of 115 people that had no undergraduate degree.
Oh my gosh.
In New York. And all these guys were entitled with silver spoons in their mouths. And I'm like, I'm going to outwork every one of you guys. I go, you guys.
And you did that.
Well, no, I actually worked 80, 90 hours a week, 6 days a week, and I was the #3 in my developing business group in the entire country.
This is
how it works.
Yeah, you're giving us a lot of life hacks right now. A lot of street smart stuff.
This is street smart.
Yeah, and life hacks for real. Like what you're sharing. Yeah.
Straight up. And
that's crazy. What?
I called somebody so much and had so much rejection that I didn't realize the managers were looking at the call logs, and they're like seeing, okay, who's making the most dials, they would look at the call logs, and then they would give orphan accounts to me and put me in an office because they're like, oh, he's working the hardest.
Yeah.
Because they saw the work, and then I was closing deals. But I got to a point where I was just like, I didn't care anymore, so I called people up, and instead of like, oh, this is Josh from such and such, I'd be like, hey man, what's up? This is Josh. What's going on? What are you doing? Dude, I'm here to help you. And I was just talking to him like a friend. They're like, do I know you? And I'm like, no, but I'm down the street. And then I would talk to him like a real person. And they're like, God, no one ever does this. Usually, like salespeople, they call and they have a pitch. It's real sterile. I'm not interested, but you're calling me like you're a friend and like you care.
Yeah.
And I had this magic moment that completely changed my entire life. And I swear to God, dude, 8 out of every 10 calls I made, people wanted to go to lunch with me, they wanted to go out to dinner, they wanted to hang out with me, because I was just a real person and I wasn't sugarcoating anything.
No, yeah, 100. Yeah, I feel that.
It was insane.
I'm getting the vibe off of you. Like, I enjoy listening to you, I enjoy talking to you, and I enjoy this company. So it's like all this knowledge is very, very like, it's great. It's great.
When I was growing up, I was raised by a single mom, pretty much on food stamps. I remember like standing in line, and we used to get like blocks of cheese that were like, they looked like they're nuclear or radioactive. But I was always about hustling because, you know, we lived in a mobile home park, you know, and
wow.
it was just like from paycheck to paycheck, we always just had enough. And I remember rationing food and feeling hungry sometimes at night, and then it was really, really challenging, but I was always a hustler. I was always washing cars, I was always raking the leaves, I was always washing the windows, just like every entrepreneur would.
Yeah.
And because innovation comes from necessity. It actually comes from lack of, not having an abundance of resources. A lot of people think, oh, you have a lot of resources, so you have an advantage over me. Well, that's not the reality at all.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the innovation comes from not having a lot. Because you have
makes
to be
sense.
creative,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And at a young age, which is crazy, one of my first jobs I got was working in a trash company. My dad, actually, best friend, had a trash company, and he's like, "Oh, you want to work at the dump?" And I was like, "Damn!" I'm like, "But I didn't have a job."
Yeah.
At the time, I was just hustling, so I'm like, "Okay, I'll work at the trash."
How old were you at this time?
I was like 16, 17 years old, and then they hired me at the trash company, and I was doing everything I could, you know, just moving trash around. And then the interesting thing is that what I discovered was treasure in the trash. And everybody's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, I would show up, and I had a truck, and then I'd look in the trash, and people were throwing away antiques. And I was like, wait a second, these are valuable. I'd throw them in my truck, you know, and then I'd take them home, put them in storage. People are throwing away books. And I was like, wait a second, these books are valuable. I was finding artwork in the trash. I was finding like people throwing copper and metal away in the trash. And then I was like, wait a second, I'm going to sell these books to bookstores because they have value.
Yeah.
I started making money. I'm going to sell these antiques on the weekends. I'm going to go to the antique shows and sell antiques. So I was making money from selling antiques. They were like literally, it was actually, they were throwing away beer. Beer was getting old. And I was like, I wasn't 21. And I was getting cases of beer, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases of beer, and selling them for $5 a case.
Wow. So so
which is crazy. But when I was young and I was hustling, I had like 5, 6, 7 streams of income before I was 18. But I was monetizing trash and waste, and I realized that, oh my God, these people didn't feel like this trash had value, but to everyone else it actually had value. And so I was basically taking all these things, and then I had all my friends coming to the dump, and we were basically stripping all the valuable assets. So it was like gold mining.
Yeah, no, for sure.
No, which is crazy. And then my sister's like, oh, because my sister, my older sister, she had a job on a cruise ship in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you should come out here. And I was thinking it was like the Love Boat, you know, romance. And so I left my business to my brother. So my brother took over the business. And then I actually went to Hawaii and actually became a merchant marine. I actually started working with the Coast Guard.
Before we get there, hold that thought. So when you're finding all these antiques and like valuables in the dump, how much were you making at that time? Like how much, like?
Well, no, I was rolling in Mercedes. I had my own place. I actually left home before I was 18.
Really?
And I had piles of cash at home. Like, you come to my house, I'd throw all the parties with all my friends. I'd feed everybody, cook dinners, and people would come over and said, all I want you to do is no smoking in the house, no drugs, you have to vacuum, you have to clean up. And people would come in, and everything was organized. It was crazy because I respected everybody. They didn't have the means.
Yeah.
And then I'd take all my friends shopping, like all our girlfriends were just friends. I'd be like, hey, let's just go shopping. And then we had so much cash we were generating.
Dang.
We'd just go on these shopping sprees and stuff, and then it wasn't really about the dollars and cents. It was just about
the experience.
Dude, I was 100% financially independent before I was 18 doing this. Even Salvation Army, even the Goodwill, when they overflow, what do you think happens to all that stuff?
They throw it away.
They throw it away, but then you have all this clothes. What do you think you can do with this clothes? Think about the vintage market.
Yeah.
What's happening in the vintage market? So we were like, this is insane. So it was like our playground. It's like everybody else was chasing the money and the dollars, and then we were like, wait a second, all the wealth is here. We're talking millions of dollars worth of stuff every year thrown away.
Yeah.
One dump.
Wow.
I'm not talking about every other dump.
No,
Imagine if you did a diversion program. And so it was pretty incredible. So before I was 18, I became financially independent, and then I was just like, hey, I want to do something different. I like Hawaii, and
Can you say, like, just for reference, how much you were making per year doing that at the time? Yeah.
No, I don't know, per week it was like tens of thousands of dollars.
Tens of thousands of dollars. Wow.
Gosh, yeah. And the interesting thing is that was just the beginning of the entrepreneurialism. When I went to Hawaii and became merchant marine, they kept laying my off because it was such hard work. It was like, imagine the restaurant industry just at night. This was like breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
And so it kicked my ass. So they kept laying me off, and I was like, I need to find a job, you know, because I was like running out of money at that time because I was staying at the hostel because I was floating myself.
Right.
You have a certain lifestyle, and you have to learn, you know, how to manage your money. And so then I managed my money for a specific period of time. It was like a year and a half, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to start a business, a nonprofit. Turns out nonprofits are actually profit companies.
Yeah.
You can support a cause, and I was really big on endangered species, and I wanted to like save the pandas and protect the oceans. And so when I got laid off on the cruise ship,
so how old were you at this time?
Oh, I was like in my 20s, like 21.
Okay, 21. Okay, and before you jump into that, I didn't mean to cut you off. And I know you got a lot of information you want to share. Who would you sell these like valuables to though? Like, what was your angle?
No, it's just like storage, the reality show for the storage company. You know, when they auction off storage.
Yeah.
And then they buy the storage units without seeing it. Well, all those storage units are just what's in the trash. And then they say, okay, well, I need to value this crystal. And so then they go to the crystal shop, and then the crystal shop buys it. They already have customers. And then so you don't need overhead. It's a complete imagination. Everybody thinks that they need a physical location to sell something, and that's not the reality. You find the people that already have the customers, that are already in the industry, and already have the distribution channels, and they want inventory. So you can go to these people and say, oh, hey, you can consign this. I'll split profits with you. Yeah. And I would go to the like the bookshops, and I would go, even the adult magazine shops is crazy. They're throwing away thousands of magazines that were like Playboys and stuff, and I would sell that back to the. And then they were actually
that's
clean.
so cool,
brand new.
Yeah.
And then you'd have like shampoo and conditioners that would get thrown away from major companies that throw containers of shampoos and conditioners. So I'd have truckloads of shampoos and conditioners. You'd come to my place, and my bedrooms were filled top to bottom, floor to ceiling with shampoo and conditioners.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah.
And then I was going door to door. I had all my friends like going door to door selling shampoo, conditioner, 3 for $5, and we were knocking on everybody's doors.
Yeah, you guys were just hustling. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, is like if you're making tens of thousands of dollars per week, that's like you're probably making $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 a year.
Yeah, but even more. And imagine this for a second. That's just taking trash out of the dump.
Yeah.
Now imagine me today. I'm actually seeing where all the trash is from major industrial companies, major oil and gas companies that are multi-hundred-billion-dollar conglomerates.
Yeah.
Imagine how much waste that they create, and now imagine that you have the ability to turn that into economic value that you can actually sell back to major industries. And so that's what I'm doing now. But I kind of want to go through the mindset of how it evolved. But that's where I started in the trash. Yeah. And then starting in the trash, I never realized that was going to be my model for what I did in the future. Yeah. On a bigger level, but more organized. Yeah. And not just like slinging.
You have to go through that experience to be able to get there and do what you do now. So it's
that's set the fundamentals for having that understanding.
100%, yeah.
If someone else's trash is another man's treasure, someone else's problem is an opportunity. And then I didn't really know what it meant by having a competitive advantage, because all that stuff's kind of commoditized, and I was thinking, well, how do I separate myself from someone else that has deeper pockets? Yeah. Because the only way you can separate yourself from someone that has more money is if you have an intellectual property or a competitive advantage, whether it's a special talent like you're a professional athlete, or it's a special location where you have a special piece of real estate, or it's a special intellectual property. I was like, okay, how did that come into my brain? Because I had to have some sort of competitive advantage, you know? And then what I realized is that when I went to Hawaii and became a merchant marine and I got laid off, I set up a nonprofit organization, and I did something that no one did in the world. I got a First Amendment attorney. I contested my freedom of speech in the Supreme Court of Law. Okay. And so, because we all have freedoms. Yeah. And as a nonprofit organization, I started a T-shirt company I put endangered species designs on my shirts, and then I put freedom of speech, save the pandas, save the whales, and then I contested my freedom of speech in the Supreme Court of Law, and I was the first vendor in history to ever set up this public or federal property to pay no taxes or anything, because I was a nonprofit. It's a freedom of speech. I found a loophole to actually sell merchandise and spread awareness and raise money for endangered species, and I was the first person to do that in Hawaii.
That's crazy. Yeah. So you're young at this point.
No, I was in my 20s.
Yeah, but it's just crazy to me because it started at 16, 17, you know, working for the trash company.
Company.
And then you kind of just like discover this thing, and and you're making so much money at a young age. Did you get into like any trouble, while you're making that money?
Well, I made more money. I'll tell you what happened. I made more money in t-shirts because when I started in Hawaii, the average Japanese businessman spends $500 a day. And I was really stupid telling everybody, oh, if you start a nonprofit, it's freedom of speech. And so then I created my own competition, and it went from a couple tables to like hundreds of tables in Hawaii on the main strip. But everybody was speaking Japanese. I wasn't speaking Japanese, but I was street smart. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna move my tables, my t-shirt stands over by their stands. I'm going to listen to every word they say because I realized it was all about communication. If I learned the art of communication on the street in their language, I would have a competitive advantage being like a white guy because they discriminated against me. Because the Japanese are like, oh, you're not Japanese or you're not Hawaiian. And so I had a lot of discrimination that I was faced with. So I moved near these guys and I listened to them and I'm like, I'm going to learn Japanese.
You learned it,
I'm like, doza irasha, ichimai godo, yasui ne mite kudasai, saiko desu. So I learned.
Wait, you know how to speak Japanese?
Oh, everything has to do with numbers and greetings and
Dude,
I just taught myself.
crazy.
I was like, straight up, dude, I have to learn Japanese because I need to make things happen. But they blew me out of the water, the competition. And I'm like, where can I go that no one's ever gone in history? And I'm like, Washington, D.C., no one's ever been to Washington. On the mall. It's basically the capital of the United States. You have millions of students that go there, and all the museums are free. And you have millions of kids that come, and they all have $5 to buy a shirt. I was buying containers of t-shirts, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of containers of t-shirts. Silk screen them, selling them for $5, making like $2, $3 a shirt.
Wow.
And then I remember setting up 4 tables on the mall in Washington, and I had no competition. Because all the vendors, they can't go on the mall, but I can. It's freedom of speech. I found my loophole. I had my own intellectual property at that time. And so I was making $80,000 a week. It was like
$80,000 a week.
Oh yeah, for our cause, it was just absolutely incredible.
That's
it was $80,000
insane.
a week. I would work 7 days a week. I'd have 14-hour days. I would go home and I'd fall on the ground exhausted. I had fanny packs, literally with like cash, and then I would dump it and I had piles of money. I was in my room. I had a futon.
So
I had a futon just with a pillow, and it was like it looked like I was like a drug dealer. There was like cash everywhere. It was the most insane thing. I didn't even have time to go to the bank. And then I would just go back and rinse and repeat. And then I worked probably, I'd say 2.5 months straight, 7 days a week. Literally, I was working 120 hours a week, literally to the point of almost exhaustion. And then I told everyone, I'm like, oh, it's First Amendment rights. And then so then all the vendors copied what I did. And they're like, oh, let's make the DC the 51st state, which is not about it's helping endangered species, because we're helping endangered species. They're like, oh, let's make this the 51st state. So they came out with like t-shirts and hats and the monument. People wanted touristy stuff. They didn't want like the pandas, and that was a small part of the business. So within a very short amount of time, it went from 4 tables to 500 on the mall.
That's so cool.
And then it was on the national news, and they blew us up and said that Washington D.C. is a flea market. And made that and then they banned everyone.
Oh my gosh! Wow, you've been through a lot, huh? And you're still in your 20s at that point.
In
the story. Oh my gosh! I remember you saying from the last video that if you make $100 million, you're considered a small fish in the pond. So obviously, you're just referring that you're a bigger fish in the pond.
Yeah, well, the reality is that it's all about monetizing intellectual property, and you got to think of it this way. If I have a resource, so I can go out and I can meet with geophysicists, I can meet with geologists, and it's called acres of diamonds. All the major oil and gas companies basically are shutting down business as we know it, and a lot of it's going overseas. And what they leave is they leave these little resources that they're not interested in because they don't have the ability to scale those resources, or it's not big enough and enticing enough for them.
I see.
But me as a small player, I'm nimble. I'm like a ninja. I can go in and I can pinpoint these resources that they left behind. And I can use innovative technology like 2 and 3D seismic technology, which is like acoustic. You can send sound waves into the ground that gives you images of these natural resources, and you can pinpoint where these resources are, which is incredible. And you can go and you can get leases and control massive amounts of land, which are natural resources, and then those resources become basically a receivable. It's like money in the bank.
I see.
And then what you can do is you can then recover these resources, and then you can sell them to major industries, and then you're able to monetize those resources. So right now, I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of barrels of oil, natural gas that I actually have title and actually have control of in my company. And then what I do is then I actually monetize those resources in a way that's environmentally friendly. A lot of people say, oh, well, if you're an oil and gas guy, we want solar and wind. Well, solar and wind, the reality is that 80% of the input minerals that go into the solar and wind and the batteries and the materials to build solar and wind is actually in a few countries that have a lot of geopolitical instability, and it's transported from very, very long distances. And those are technologies that have to be subsidized. If you have to subsidize the technology, it probably doesn't stand on its own as far as profitability and what those technologies do.
Yeah.
It raises the price of energy for the people in those communities. So you want to look at baseload energy. You want to look at geothermal power, right? So we're looking at geothermal power right now, taking old oil wells and actually convert them into geothermal power. You can create electricity from old infrastructure, which is incredible. It's highly innovative.
Okay.
You know, you can also, you want to look at hydroelectric. So if you look at the Army Corps of Engineers, there's more waterways, over 60,000 waterways in America. We can use micro turbines to generate electricity with just the existing waterways that are in America.
Yeah.
And decentralize energy and sell electricity that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not dependent on whether the sun is out. It's not dependent on whether, you know, the wind is blowing, which is interesting.
Let's kind of go backwards. Yeah. So where we left off at.
Yeah.
So just to kind of like explain, even more the younger audience that don't understand what you do in Malia Ventures.
So what I'm doing is I'm giving advice for people out there that they can have the capabilities with not having resources.
Okay.
And the lack of. When I was actually younger and I had to bring people together and I was brokering deals. Because when you broker deals, you marginalize yourself. Even though you get money, you want ownership.
Yeah.
So I realized, because I was actually raising money for many years for other people, and I had a situation where I had a bad partnership.
Yeah.
And I was licensed and it went south, and it like blew up in my face. And what I realized is that I needed to take personal responsibility and have my own company and call my own shots.
Yeah.
Write my own checks.
100%.
Do my own deals.
Yeah.
Hold myself accountable.
Yes,
Look
sir.
in the mirror.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like a reality check. It was like a deep dive reality check. So what I realized is that I wanted to go out and I wanted to discover solutions for the oil and gas industry.
Okay.
Like recycling the water, recycling the gas, creating greenhouses, creating more foods. And then I found all these solutions through national labs like Department of Energy. You can go to MIT, you can go to Berkeley. They have all this intellectual property you can access, and then you can create private-public partnerships and create partnerships with the universities. You can create partnerships with laboratories that have technologies that say take this technology and then make a company out of it.
Okay.
There's these organizations, hundreds of billions of dollars spent every year on national laboratories. There's like 17 laboratories that solve problems in energy, food, water, and then they promote it, and they actually want people to take these solutions. So I was taking these solutions and going to these oil and gas companies.
Okay.
And the issue is that they were like, no, we're not interested, because they're older. They didn't want to change. They didn't want to innovate, because they're like, oh, we're doing well. We don't want to innovate. And so then I'm like, okay, well then I'm going to become you. Because in reality, in mixed martial arts and in your life, you always think there's something outside of you that's going to make you happy, but it's all about inside.
Yeah.
So if you're an activist and you have a problem with someone, you don't tell them what to do. You're not going to change what someone's going to do. You can't convince someone. That's a waste of energy.
Yeah.
The street smart thing is, okay, well, if you don't see the light, then I'm going to set up the business in your industry. I'm going to become you. I'm going to completely change it from the inside out, and I'm going to dominate that industry.
Interesting.
So I started looking at the history books and saying, okay, where was the biggest oil discoveries? Where is the biggest opportunity in California? And so I actually started searching for my acres of diamonds, because I wanted a perpetual engine, and I could use cash flow to then bring innovation into my company, solve my own personal problems, improve it myself.
Yeah,
and then sell those solutions to everyone else around me and solely change the industry, because that's what it's about. It's about collaboration and innovation.
Yeah.
So I basically found, God, it's incredible. I found 2 properties up in Kern County.
Okay.
I ended up hooking up with one of the top geologists in the world that was one of the original geologists with Occidental Petroleum, which is a major independent oil and gas company that went public that Warren Buffett just bought a bunch of.
Okay.
Well, the original geologist that found 50 of the largest oil fields in America, that took that company from a few $100,000 a year to over $400 million a year in revenue.
Sheesh.
And then he retired, and I brought him out of retirement. There's massive age discrimination. There's a lot of guys that shape societies, and these older people have all this knowledge and wisdom. So there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. You can have knowledge and read a book, but wisdom is actually taking that knowledge and applying it, living it, creating value for society, and then retiring. So wisdom is the application of the knowledge and going through it. So these guys had the wisdom, but everybody's like, oh, you have like a 10-year life expectancy. You know, we have younger guys that we want to mold.
Yeah.
They'll do what we say. But I'm like, no way. I'm gonna take advantage of these older guys that were like set aside, that had these legacy assets. So I went up there and I saved these guys. I'm like, dude,
wow.
I want your knowledge. I'm gonna throw you a life preserver. I'll back anything that you want to do. Let's go find some oil. Let's go find some gas, so I can bring these technologies. Dude, I invested in a technology that a Nobel Prize laureate in chemistry invented. It's a microbial, it's a biodegradable technology where not only it eats like oil spills and makes it clean, But you can actually use this and actually put it into the oil well and recover all the oil without doing fracking,
Really?
which is damaging, without doing steam flooding.
You said you invented this?
It's totally bio. No, a Nobel Prize laureate in chemical engineering discovered the ability to take a microbe, it's a natural occurring living organism. You can put 1 billion on the tip of a pen, and you can actually reuse it and actually recover more oil and gas, and actually clean all the toxins of all the gas and oil spills. 100% biodegradable and clean.
Really? So to someone that has no idea what you're talking about, right? And that could be me. Describe how that works exactly for a person that's just hearing it for the first time.
It totally easy. Okay, so normally when you actually, if you drill for like an oil well, and then you get like 1/3 of all the oil that's in the ground, you know? So it's like if you have a 2-liter bottle, you're only gonna get like maybe this much of that 2-liter bottle. Oil companies they do fracking and steam flooding, which is more harmful to the environment. And so what you want to do is you want to find a natural, gentle way of getting the rest of the value of those assets out of the ground. So what happens is that oil gets trapped into rock. And so they want to break up the rock. So it's a 2-liter bottle, and you have a lot of tennis balls in that 2-liter bottle. Those tennis balls aren't going to come out the other end because they're stuck in that's the oil stuck in the rock.
Gotcha.
And what happens is these little microbes, if you give them like a little cocktail, they're excited. It's all natural, and they want to attach themselves to the tennis balls. And those tennis balls deform. They turn into little BBs. And then you have micro droplets that comes right out the other end of the 2-liter bottle.
Right.
50 to 200% more oil production out of every oil well.
Okay, that makes sense.
Natural. And it's all been proven. It's all been done by the Society of Petroleum Engineers. And so it's just, I was looking for, hey, how can I bring in a natural, gentle, beautiful way of basically maximizing the assets that are already there without hurting the environment? And using something, and then, but again, they don't adopt technologies in the oil and gas industry, big companies. It takes many, many, many years. So I was just like, well, I'm going to do it on my own. And so I'm basically rolling all that technology into Malia Ventures. I proved out all those technologies in my company, solve my own problems. I become more profitable, and then as I prove those technologies out and demonstrate them, I'm my own customer. And then I can show that here's the proof, because I can show you how much money I've saved.
Right.
And then I can say, okay, I want to buy a territory. I go back to the entrepreneur, and I say, I'm going to buy the rights to California for all the microorganisms to recover more oil to sell to the oil and gas companies. I'm going to give you cash for that right. And they're like, oh my God, this is a sale. This is great. And so then it's like owning Coca-Cola. If you have the recipe to Coca-Cola, imagine going to Europe and being the guy that owns the recipe. And then all the bottlers that are bottling the Cokes and stuff in Europe, well, they get, the person that owns that recipe gets 2 or 3 cents every time a Coke is bottled. Well, they're not the manufacturer. They're not the distributor. They just have the recipe for Coca-Cola. So what you got to think, no matter what you do in life, it's not about what I'm doing. It's not about copying what I do. It's about what is the concept of what I'm doing. Is I'm creating a box, and I'm trying to find unique ways and innovation that I can duplicate. You don't need to invest, like with me, everybody's like, a lot of people come to me in their startup companies, and I go, I'm not going to invest in a startup company. I can invest in someone that's already proved the technology, that already has a paying customer, that needs money to grow, and so I'm going to build capacity in that. Warren Buffett, he invests in great people. He invests in great ideas and great technology. And so I'm going to be that person. So you said you rather not invest in startup companies? Is that what you said? No, what I do is I invest in companies that have intellectual property, like patents, like something
that's already like solidified.
Something that makes them, that they can say that, hey, I'm doing something that no one else is doing in the world, and this is the proof, and I have the rights to do that. It's called a patent. So they have a patent. 2, it's like, are they more resource sufficient? Doesn't matter what industry it is. If they can do more with less money, well, we can do more with less than everybody else. That's innovation, because that's like taking 2 steps to something that everybody else is taking 4 steps to do. The third thing, can you demonstrate it? Because I don't want you to use my money to try to create something and demonstrate it, it might crash and burn. So if you can already demonstrate that for me, then I'm interested. And the 4th thing is, do you have a paying customer? And then everybody's like, well, then why do you need me? If I already have a paying customer, it's because when you have hyper success, you need capital to grow. And so why don't I find the people that already have the hyper success that want to go into markets? And then I mitigated all my risk on the front end of just starting stuff up, because 80% of those companies die. So I'm going to basically support the companies that have already put the skin in the game, you know, if you will, and then I'm going to help them build capacity. But I'm going to help them build capacity in my industry. The thing is, how do I make myself stronger? How do I make myself better? You know, there's a book by Charles Koch. It's like Good Profit.
Charles Koch.
Yeah, he's probably the richest man in America, no doubt. I'd say 400 or 500. $100 billion, but he's a private company. You know what I mean? But he does that, so every employee that he has, basically, or they're empowered to basically bring innovation into the company, and then based on the value creation that they make, they get paid based on the value they created for the company, not just the salary.
Right.
They get paid for the value, and then it's like an immediate feedback loop, like when you use technology.
Yeah.
Each one of his people, they're in different industries, and they share information.
Yeah.
And then they're able to innovate. So that's what I do. I went into the industry. I'm going to be literally the largest. You mark my words. In 5 years, you come.
I'll come back to you.
Independent oil and gas company, and it's not going to be an oil and gas company. It's going to be an energy company that feeds the world, that provides food at a low cost, provides super clean energy, that's doing the geothermal, that's doing the hydroelectric, that's doing the small nuclear reactors, and then that's a whole nother conversation, and then brings a holistic approach to basically building society and impacting society and giving people what their God-given rights are. And creating a legacy at the same time. And I know how to do that. I know how to take incremental baby steps. So you want to take the end plan 5 years from now, and you want to deconstruct it. And the people that are already living it at that level, you want to get into their head, right?
Yeah.
And you want to learn their language.
100%.
Your mind is a hard drive.
Yeah.
So you want to download that information. Then your thinking and your actions start changing. And then your reality starts changing.
Okay.
Because the only way that you change your reality is you change your mind.
Your mindset. What's your net worth? Can I guess it?
And I'll just tell you net asset value.
350 million?
I'll just say it's between that 200 and 350 level in that range.
Oh yeah, that's...
Which I'm gonna, and the thing is that net asset value, it's a rule of 72 if you, because if you can't measure it, you know, you can't manage it.
Okay.
And so the reality is that it's what you do with your net asset values, you know?
Yeah.
So I have net asset values that I have to monetize. So the reality is that a lot of times people have assets. You could have $100, $200, $300 million in real estate, but that's a liability. Unless it's self-liquidating debt and someone else is paying that liability for you, then that's a true asset, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you can have something, unless you monetize that can become a liability. It just turns out that it's like money in the bank. The only difference is instead of having liquid cash, I have the most liquid commodity in the entire world.
Yeah.
And I can withdraw it whenever I want. And
Yeah.
the reality is,
Damn.
I'm looking for strategic partners to actually withdraw it faster, because I have actually 3 other locations that are going to be 5 times that net asset value.
Really?
Oh
What?
yeah, no, and I'm locking it up right now. I have scientists and geophysicists, and I'm doing title search on projects right now that I'm going to be bringing in strategic partners. That where we do an equal rev share, I manage everything totally turnkey.
Yeah.
But it's higher net worth individuals, but it's so we can actually monetize that revenue, use that revenue as an economic engine to grow food, recycle waste, build affordable housing, and you want to know something? If someone says, "Oh, well, you're dirty, you're oil and gas, I'm solar and wind, I'm better, you're evil," and I'd be like, "Well, guess what? I have so much more free cash flow and so much profitability. I'm actually going to have more solar. I can do more wind than you ever could just as a solar or wind company, because you have a crutch.
Yeah.
You need to be subsidized, tax incentive, and you don't stand alone on profitability. But I, as an oil and gas company, my core is free cash flow. That free cash flow, I'm going to drive in innovation. The biggest investors in the world in renewable are the energy companies.
Yeah.
The people that own the renewable space is going to be the energy companies. They have the deepest pockets. So and believe me, if you have a well and you drill it and that oil is going to be depleted one day, why wouldn't I want a sustainable revenue stream?
Yeah.
I don't want a depleted revenue stream. So if I'm going to always go to the technology that sustains my cash flow. Now, the cash flow, it's not about greed. Cash flow, all it is, cash is, it's just energy. And it's your ability to give freedom, and it's what's in your heart. So if I'm super rich and my heart is pure and have good intentions, I'm going to be able to heal the world and do more good in the world.
Yeah, no,
if
that's true.
my heart is evil and I'm in fear mode, and you give me more money, then that's like giving me bullets.
You can
and
destroy
guns,
the world,
and I'm going to hurt the world, right? So we need super healers. We need people, and it's really sad. There's a lot of ballers in Malibu, billionaires, people that I know, and they're in fear mode. They want to keep what they have. They don't want to create legacy and impact. And the best way that you can actually change the world is invest in entrepreneurs. Help them realize their dreams.
Yeah.
Solving problems for the world.
Right.
There's nothing more honorable, there's nothing better on the planet than impacting humanity, and then how you determine what their level of influence is based on the value that they create in society.
Yeah.
And by the money they receive, that's true value they're giving the community. And we need to rise everybody up. It's not about one person or the other, it's about everybody rising up. And I'll leave with this. I want to leave with this. This is crazy. People come to me, they're like, "Josh," they're like, "You want to teach someone to fish, right?" Because they're like, "Oh, you teach them a skill forever, then they're going to be sustainable." You don't want to teach anybody to fish. You want to know why?
Why?
Because someone controls the bait. What you want to teach is someone to make the pole, someone to make the line, someone to make the hook, someone to make the bait, and then they become interdependent on each other, and then they all rely on each other, and everybody rises up. So that's why when you're in a business, you want to look at who are all the people around you you rely on. What are the strengths of all the people that you rely on? And if they have excuses because it's financial, they have excuses because they can't get there, they have all these excuses. You say, how can I give you more money, more capacity, more energy, more knowledge to be the best version of you? Because you're going to help me get there faster. You want everybody around you to be strong, to be a mastermind, and everybody to rise up. It's not me having a dictatorship of money and I push everybody else down.
Yeah, you want everybody to eat.
And there's certain tribes or certain cultures, like even like if you look at the Jewish culture, a lot of people say they're anointed by God, you know, because of the wealth and the power that they create. Well, they've actually created a really strong system. And that system is that everybody in their family and everybody around them, they want them to be as successful and economically as powerful as them.
Yeah.
And so then they move as a unit. It's incredible. And then, so you got to create a mastermind of people that are thinking the same way, that are acting the same way that you're thinking about. It magnifies you. You want to walk away from a conversation inspired, where you feel lighter. You feel inspired, like you want to actually go now. So you want to bring those people. You're in that vibration. You want to bring those people together. You want that song to be clear on the radio.
Yes.
It makes you feel like dancing and moving and getting down.
No, yeah.
But it's not your favorite song with static. It's your favorite song that's clear. And then what's going to happen is people are going to show up in your life because you're communicating that, and then they're going to elevate you.
It's the
and
energy.
You don't need to have the answers, man. I'm telling you. You just need to know the question, and you need to know the end result, and you need to make it real for yourself. You need to taste it, you need to feel it.
Yeah.
Your heart needs to ache for it, man.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Lead with passion, baby.
Okay, no, I love that. Wow. I know you said you have multiple locations, and maybe you could consider that we can maybe, I don't know, what do you guys think? Like start a little series where I check out your locations and you kind of show me around.
Sure. I can show you what I've done with nothing.
Okay.
And the facilities that I built.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And the water that I'm recycling, the gas that I'm capturing to create electricity.
I think that would be amazing for everyone to see, like what, because you're obviously it's evident that you're super intelligent, right? And you know exactly what you're talking about. And
it's not about talk, right?
And I mean, and action too, yeah. You know how to execute. So it's like, I think if I went into the trenches with you and just kind of see what you're doing, that'd be kind of cool.
I can make it even better. I'm looking at acquiring 50,000 acres in Texas right now.
Okay.
And I'm going to be developing oil and gas on those fields. But I'm actually going to be capturing all that CO2 and creating farming, massive greenhouse farming. We can go on an adventure. It's going to be awesome. Not only that, in Louisiana, I'm going to be capturing the gas and creating liquid fuels that don't create the CO2 emissions that go into shipping.
Yeah.
Right now, I want to create a standardized fuel. It's a biofuel that makes all the shipping clean, so we can clean our ocean. It's very, very, very important.
Really?
So we can go on a journey, which would be incredible.
Yeah,
on
100%.
Developing the food in Texas with all the waste streams, right, and seeing it from just the ground, going through the process to developing, and then going to Louisiana, drilling, and then seeing how I'm taking the fuel, wasted in the atmosphere, converting it, recycling it, making it fuels that are clean for the shipping industry, going to Washington with lobbyists and creating a new standard for fuels to help heal the ocean, stuff like that. I'll literally go take you through the creation of each one of my projects, not just say, oh, here's my project. You're like, oh, great, look what he achieved. But inspire you through the process. And then if people want to rise up around me or collaborate, or they even want to do their own thing, then at least they'll have a roadmap.
That would be great.
No, it'd be cool. We could even parlay it into even a reality show. I have a lot of friends.
We can go. I'm excited.
You can cruise with me.
I'm down. Hey, if you guys want to see that, and I'm sure you guys do, comment below. Yes, let's do it. But you have locations in California as well?
Yeah, I have a location up in Kern Front. It's like 2 hours away. We can leave in the morning. Yeah, I can show it to you. It's pretty crazy,
And then my last question, Josh, if you don't mind. Let's say I want to do what you do, right? I'm starting from ground zero right now. Starting from ground zero, what is the maybe 5 steps or 10 steps of what I have to do to get to your level?
Yeah, well, I think this is the most important thing. Is like when you come out of college, I meet a lot of people who have master's degrees that are working a coffee bean, and they're going to the biggest brands in LA, and they're giving resumes to the biggest brands. They're like, oh, we already have another 1,000 resumes. Everybody has a master's. Well, all you have to do is step back, because at the end of the day, you want to have freedom and you want to make enough money that allows you to do whatever you want. That's the bottom line. And provide for your family. Nothing else matters. All the cars and all that other stuff, that's amazing, because the more you have, the better, and we're all deserving. But those are just milestones. Those validate that you're creating value for society by having those high level things. But you want to look at industry trends. I can tell you right now, here's the 5 fastest growing industries in LA. And you can pinpoint small mid-cap companies that are growing exponentially, that are in technology, like Silicon Beach by Venice. And then you put your resumes in companies that have hyper accelerated speeds and growth. And then you'll get picked up instantaneously. You'll be running these companies. Like, because companies that aren't growing and you give a resume to that have a strong brand aren't going to hire you. But companies that are accelerated, you can go into those companies. With me, it's just energy. So if you want to go to energy industry, you can get certifications like Thunderbird School of Management, ASU. They have certification in global oil and gas and sustainability and renewability. Texas A&M, you can go and they have certification courses. So instead of getting degrees, you can actually go and do executive education, and then it'll educate you on this whole entire industry. And then you can look up all the problems that the industry's faced, right? And then you can start discovering solutions. They talk about these solutions in these programs, in these courses. And you can build entire businesses around problems. I can Google any industry. You give me 5 industries, you can reach out to me. Anybody can just email me.
What are 5 industries right now, top of the head?
Well, no, you want to look at the industries with the most free cash flow. Because at the end of the day, you live and die by cash. Nothing else matters. And you want to pick stocks, you want to make a fortune in stocks. Before I was 30, I made millions of dollars in stocks, just trading in stocks.
Do you still do stocks?
Oh yeah, no, I do stocks. It's the most liberating thing in the world. It's like printing money. It's the most insane thing.
Crypto?
But that's a whole nother thing. Oh no, I can tell you about crypto, and
you'll
crypto?
Be shocked.
Oh no, and I'll tell you why.
Tell me why.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna scare you. You ready for this?
I'll go.
Okay. So this is why I don't crypto. First of all, the Minister of Finance just came out in Singapore and he said, hey, we're not gonna take cryptocurrency, but we're gonna do blockchain. And the reason why he said we're not gonna do cryptocurrency is because trillions of dollars are just evaporated the last 6 months. So you have Elon Musk. He was gonna actually take Bitcoin for cars, and he said, oh, well, it's dirty, so I'm not gonna do that. But guess what? You know what the reality is about cryptocurrency?
What?
So cryptocurrency, when I'm a CFO of a company and I manage my cash, I want my cash to be stable, and the reason why is because I have to make payroll. I have to buy my products, goods, services, all my overhead. Every month I need a specific amount of money based on sales. Right? If I take cryptocurrency, right, because cryptocurrency's value is based on how it's utilized in the commercial marketplace. It's how it's accepted through barter and trade. So if I sell $10 million worth of cars in cryptocurrency, and I take that 10 million in, and I have to make payroll, I have to make my overhead, and then it moves 20% in a week, and I can't make payroll, I can't make overhead. So we don't want our cash to be volatile. We want our cash to be stable. And then everybody's like, oh, well, you can go to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. You can buy insurance on your crypto. Then cash becomes too expensive. And then here's another thing. Guess what? You know the dollar's already digitized? You know the yuan's already digitized? Do you know that if you have cryptocurrency and you get off the dollar, guess what?
What?
You can't put the brakes on if the economy is overheating. And then if the economy is cooling down, then you can't put more money in the economy by lowering interest rates and creating more liquidity to then heat it up. You're completely taking out the ability to govern how the economy heats up and cools down by a third party. The Federal Reserve actually heats up and cools down. That's why interest rates go up and down, and that's how the market's so subjective. When you go to cryptocurrency, not only is it volatile, when you make it transparent, you lose volatility, you lose profit margin too. So who makes money in cryptocurrency?
Who?
You want to know who does? The market maker. You know what a market maker is? The market maker is like Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Every time someone buys and sells the cryptocurrency, they make a little tiny percentage point. So it doesn't matter if it goes up, it doesn't matter if it goes down. If there's lots of volatility, guess what? That's more volume, that's more money. So when I'm a guy that's on the exchange and being like, oh, I'm on Bloomberg, and I'm like, oh, this is being adopted in the industry, you should buy as much as you want. Well, guess what? They don't really care if it goes up or down because they're making a percentage either way because they're in the middle, dude. They're the broker. It's insane. And people don't realize that the reality is that they're the broker on crypto. And so then the reality, I can tell you how to trade cryptocurrency. You want to make money on cryptocurrency? Yeah. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, so you can go to Google and you can actually do keyword searches. And you can actually plot a graph on keywords. So you take the crypto that you want to trade, and then you say, okay, how many times is that cryptocurrency mentioned in the news? And what you'll see is the more that the name of that cryptocurrency is mentioned, the more awareness that it has, then the more people buy into it.
Yes, true.
And then when that word in cryptocurrency is not mentioned, then what happens is the price starts going down because less people mention it. So it's basically the news and the volume. It's the volume of the hype. So it's like the penny stock. So where's the fundamentals? So the blockchain is key for resource management, which I'm a firm believer in artificial intelligence, blockchain, managing how things are delivered and the stakeholders and the impacts. That's the future 100%. But the countries are going to be like straight up. They're going to be like, dude, you know, our currency is already digitally traded, and we want the ability to have a third party that's going to manage whether our economy's eating cool. You know what I mean? So, and then I can just go off on gold and even dollar. You know, it's funny. This is, everybody says, oh, you got to get off the dollar because the dollar's dead. It has no value. So you got to go into gold, right? You know, it's funny.
What?
Is that everybody says, oh, there's all this inflation and you should go into gold because the price of gold is going to skyrocket. Well, guess what? Most of the price of gold moves because of people buying jewelry, because of electronics and dentistry. If we go into an inflationary period and people are using less of those services, how is the price of gold going to go up because we're going into a recession? It's really interesting. So that's why you had the dollar increase, but then the price of gold's actually going down, and then everybody's saying, oh, but the dollar has no value. Well, you know what backs the dollar?
What?
And this is going to...
what backs the dollar? Because I thought it was something else. But
everybody says, oh, no, they say it's debt, and the dollar has no value. You want to know how much value the dollar has?
Tell me.
I'll tell you. The dollar has the value of the ability of the government to be able to have the IRS enforce collecting taxes on every landowner in America, which is property tax, and every paycheck that you earn when you're a U.S. citizen that you pay taxes on, that's the government's ability to pay back that debt on that dollar. So if everybody in America says, hey, I want to leave America, right, and then the government has no ability to tax, well, guess what? That dollar's worth nothing. If you don't pay your taxes, guess what happens? They seize everything you own and they auction off, sell it, and then they pay their debts. So then all these guys come out, you know, we're talking major rollers in education, and then they just don't get it. These guys are financial whizzes and they're like, oh no, I'm going to sell you gold. Well, first of all, you don't want to take your retirement account, put it into gold when gold doesn't create income, and retirement accounts are for income, right? And then gold, if it just stagnates and sits there, so there's a purpose for gold. You know, and there's seasonality to it, and you have title, the physical asset, and then you can sell it into industry if you want to lower your costs on your input costs on your own products that you're selling in the market, and you can control that makes perfect sense. But at the end of the day, your dollar is worth the ability for the government to come knocking on your freaking door and saying, dude, pay your tax, and then they can take your properties. If you don't pay your property
that's interesting. I never thought of it.
You accept a dollar and then they give debt on the treasuries. Guess what? They have everybody's balls in America. Because
for sure.
It gives us freedom and they protect us. But that's how the dollar works, and a lot of people you'll never hear anybody on Bloomberg, you'll never hear anybody on CNBC tell that. But I know some stuff in the finance industry that'll open up a can of worms, and we can go into a can of worms.
I feel like there's so much information. Like we can throw a whole 30 episode series really just about everything that you're saying.
We should probably do that.
But is there anything you want to leave off to the individual that's just to inspire them, something just to close it off with?
No, I think if anything, you're inspiring me and everybody out there because you're creating a butterfly effect with creating awareness for people that actually accomplish things in life. And I can see you like a Joe Rogan, dude. I can see you in the future because Joe Rogan, to me, like he's like the top of the food chain. You can be that guy, man, because you're interviewing. Think about what you're doing. Think about one of the #1 best-selling books of all time with Chicken Soup for the Soul. These short stories about people's lives. Imagine you having all this knowledge of these short stories of all these people that made these millions of dollars. It's almost like the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Or the Tools of the Titans.
Carnegie Steel and all these guys. You're going out, whether you realize it or not, you're like Napoleon Hill going out with a camera in the 21st century, and you're discovering all these acres of diamonds through people that have accomplished great things to inspire the youth to do amazing things. So don't sell yourself short. So it's not about me giving advice. It's about what you've already done and everything that you're doing right now that makes the impact. So I actually feel grateful and blessed that you actually went out of your way, because this guy went out of his way to actually interview
You're so kind,
me. No, dude. And then, and you got the guns. I'm working on it.
No, you got it too.
I've been in mixed martial arts for 37 years, and I've actually studied 5 different disciplines, and I'm a weapons expert in 5 different katana, sword fighting, throwing knives, like weapons training. So we can go into a whole segment.
It doesn't stop with you. It just keeps going and going.
Because we're human beings, and we want to be the best version of ourselves. It's not about doing stuff overnight. It's about moving mountains with 1 drop of water at a time over time. So just do little tiny bits every day, and don't overwhelm yourself, and break complex things down into simplicity. And if you take 1 little baby step at a time, you're going to look back 5 years from now and you're going to be at the top of the mountain. And somebody told me it was really powerful. Never focus on the cars, never focus on the girls, never focus on the houses. Focus on yourself, focus on the business. You're gonna wake up one morning and you're gonna look out your window and you're gonna be like, holy Jesus, I have like 5 cars, I have 2 houses, I have the hot chick. How did that happen? It's because I didn't spread myself thin. If you have 5 things going on, you have 100% of your own capacity. If you focus on 5 things, that's 500%. How can you give 500% when you only have 100%? Focus on the one thing. Don't spread yourself thin, which is absolutely key. And then when you want to do 4 other things, make sure you have enough money to hire 4 other people that can give 100% to manage those things.
Yeah.
And then you can start branching off, and boom, you own markets straight up. But just focus on your own shit. Pick one thing, be great.
My man,
it.
Josh,
Okay,
thank you so much. That was amazing.
Yeah, brother. No worries, brother.
Yeah, that was cool.
I got more for you.
Okay, yeah, we got to do a lot more. Yeah.
You tell me I'm something you need, but baby, you know that I'm bad for you, yeah. Why you gotta be so naive? If I treat you like one I don't want, then you know I'm just so hard to please. I lie to your face to get what I want, babe. Somehow